5 years later, Admiral Amy Sullivan stood on the observation deck of Haven Station, watching ships from dozens of worlds dock at the massive spaceport. Haven had once been humanity's greatest colonial achievement, a world terraformed to perfection and home to 50 million people. When the human empire fell, it had been abandoned and forgotten. Now it was the capital of the restored Galactic Federation. The transformation hadn't happened overnight, but it had been steady and inevitable. Once humanity demonstrated they meant what they said about building something better. Unlike their ancestors, who had ruled through dominance, this new generation of humans offered genuine partnership to alien species willing to work for the common good. "Admiral Sullivan," came a voice behind her. She turned to see Captain Luis Martinez, her chief of staff, approaching with a datapad. "The monthly reports from the outer sectors are in. Crime rates are down another 15%, and trade volume is up 20%. Amy smiled as she reviewed the numbers. It had taken 5 years of hard work, but the galaxy was finally becoming stable again. The piracy that had plagued the outer sectors for centuries had been nearly eliminated. Trade disputes that once led to wars were now settled through negotiation and compromise. "Any word from the Zephyrian territories?" she asked. Luce's expression grew more serious. "Still holding out, ma'am. Ambassador Zelther refuses all attempts at communication. Intelligence reports suggest their economy is struggling without access to the restored trade networks." Amy nodded sadly. The Zephyrian Empire had been one of the few major powers to reject humanity's offer of partnership. They had retreated to their home territories and cut off all contact with the outside galaxy. Their pride would not allow them to admit they had been wrong. The door chimed, and Dr. Lisa Grant entered the observation lounge. She looked younger than her years, thanks to the advanced medical treatments that had been developed from the old human databases. As the director of the Galactic Research Institute, she had spent the past 5 years working with scientists from dozens of species to push the boundaries of knowledge even further than their ancestors had achieved. "Amy," Lisa said, joining her at the viewing port, "I have good news. The quantum communications array is finally online. We can now communicate instantly with any point in the galaxy." Amy felt a thrill of excitement. Instant communication across galactic distances had been one of humanity's greatest achievements before the Civil War, but the technology had been lost when the Empire fell. Now it was restored and improved. "The first message came from Earth," Lisa continued. "President Johnson sends her congratulations and wants to know when you'll be visiting home." Amy laughed. She had been born on Earth, but had spent most of her adult life in space. Haven felt more like home to her now than the world of her birth. "Tell her I'll visit as soon as the new colony ships are launched." The colony ships were another triumph of the Restoration. Humanity had spent 5 years rebuilding not just their technology, but their approach to expansion. The new colonies would be joint ventures, with humans and aliens working together to settle new worlds. No single species would dominate, and all would benefit from the shared knowledge and resources. Dr. Grant activated holographic display, showing the current state of the galaxy. The blue areas representing human-led territories had grown steadily over the past 5 years, but not through conquest. They had grown through invitation, as more and more alien species requested to join the restored Federation. "We now have formal partnerships with over 300 species," Lisa explained. "The crystalline collectives have become our primary partners in energy research. The Void Dancers are leading our deep space exploration efforts. Even the Plasma Confederacy has contributed significantly to our defense technologies." Amy studied the display with satisfaction. Each species had found a role that matched their actual capabilities and interests, rather than trying to compete in areas where they were weak. The result was a level of cooperation and efficiency that the galaxy had never seen before. "What? About the holdouts?" Amy asked, pointing to the red areas on the map where species still refused to join the Federation. "Most are coming around," Lisa replied. "The benefits of Federation membership are too obvious to ignore. Better security, fairer trade, access to advanced technology, and a voice in galactic governance. Only the most stubborn leaders are still holding out." A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Captain Martinez activated the communication system, and the face of Admiral Jake Morrison appeared on the screen. Jake had been promoted to Supreme Admiral of all Federation forces and was currently leading the exploration of the galaxy's outer reaches. "Amy, Lisa," Jake said with a smile, "I have news that will interest you both. We've discovered the Builders." Amy felt her heart skip a beat. The Builders were a legendary species mentioned in some of the oldest human records. They were supposed to be the ones who had taught humanity faster-than-light travel and helped them take their first steps into the galaxy millions of years ago. "Where?" Amy asked. "In the Andromeda approach, beyond the galactic rim," Jake replied. "They've been watching us for the past 5 years, waiting to see if we would repeat our ancestors' mistakes or learn from them." Lisa leaned forward excitedly. "What do they want?" Jake's smile grew wider. "To welcome us back to our rightful place as leaders of galactic civilization. It seems they've been waiting for humanity to grow up and reclaim their inheritance." The implications were staggering. If the Builders approved of humanity's restoration, it would legitimize their leadership in the eyes of every species in the galaxy. Even the holdouts would have difficulty arguing against beings who were considered the oldest and wisest in the known universe. "There's more," Jake continued. "They want to invite us to join the greater galactic community. Apparently, our galaxy is just one of thousands they've been monitoring, and they think we're ready to take our place among the truly advanced civilizations." Amy felt tears forming in her eyes. Humanity had gone from being forgotten outcasts to potential leaders of multiple galaxies in just 5 years. The journey had been long and difficult, but they had finally proven they were worthy of their ancestors' legacy. "When do we meet them?" she asked. "They're sending a delegation to Haven next month," Jake replied. "They want to see our capital and meet with our leadership before making any formal agreements." After the transmission ended, Amy and Lisa stood in comfortable silence, watching the ships moving through Haven's orbital space. The sight had become familiar over the past 5 years, but it never failed to impress her. Ships from dozens of worlds, all working together under human leadership. "Do you think we'll succeed this time?" Lisa asked quietly. "Do you think we can avoid the mistakes that destroyed the First Empire?" Amy considered the question carefully. "We're not the same species that built the First Empire," she finally said. "We've learned what it's like to be powerless, to be forgotten, to struggle for survival. That's taught us humility that our ancestors never had." She gestured toward the bustling spaceport below them. "Look at what we've built. It's not based on human dominance, but on human leadership. We're not ruling other species. We're helping them reach their potential." Lisa nodded thoughtfully. "The First Empire fell because we thought we were better than everyone else. We've learned that we're not better. We're just different. Our gift isn't superiority. It's the ability to bring out the best in others." A new ship appeared on the horizon, its design unlike anything either woman had seen before. It was sleek and elegant, with flowing lines that seemed almost organic. As it approached the station, they could see symbols on its hull that were clearly not from any known species. "That must be an advanced scout from the Builders," Amy said with excitement, as they watched the mysterious ship dock at Haven Station. Both women understood that they were witnessing another turning point in human history. The restoration of human leadership in their own galaxy had been just the beginning. Now they were being invited to join something much larger and more magnificent than they had ever imagined. The message was clear. Humanity had not just reclaimed their place as rulers of the galaxy. They had earned their place as leaders among the stars themselves. Amy smiled as she thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. Captain Jake Morrison's discovery of Dr. Lisa Grant and her ancient knowledge had been the spark that ignited humanity's awakening. The revelations about humanity's hidden past had been the fuel that powered their determination to reclaim their rightful place. The confrontation with the alien species who had erased their history had been the test that proved they were ready for leadership. But the restoration itself had been the real achievement. They had taken a broken galaxy and made it whole again. They had brought peace where there had been conflict, prosperity where there had been poverty, and hope where there had been despair. The galaxy forgot us, Amy said quietly as the builder ship completed its docking procedures. But we never forgot who we were meant to be. Lisa placed a hand on her friend's shoulder. And now the universe itself is welcoming us home. As they prepared to meet the representatives of the greater galactic community, both women knew that humanity's greatest adventures were still ahead of them. Admiral Kyle Harrison stood at the main window of New Terra Station, watching small patrol ships move between the outer defenses. The sight always made him feel both proud and sad. Proud because these ships represented humanity's best efforts to protect their small corner of space. Sad because he knew how weak they really were compared to what was out there. The year was 2387, and humanity had been trapped in their tiny region of the galaxy for over 200 years. The Korthek Empire controlled everything else. They were a race of tall, gray-skinned warriors who had conquered most of the known galaxy 3,000 years ago. To them, humans were nothing more than a minor annoyance, barely worth watching. Kyle turned away from the window as Captain Lisa Morgan entered the command center. She carried a data pad and wore the worried expression that had become too common lately. Lisa had been his tactical advisor for 5 years, and he trusted her judgment more than anyone else on the station. "What's the latest from the Border Patrol?" Kyle asked, though he already suspected the answer would not be good. 3 more cargo ships went missing near the Korthek border, Lisa said, setting the data pad on the central table. That makes 12 ships in the past month. The Empire claims they know nothing about it, but their patrols have been getting more aggressive. Kyle nodded grimly. The missing ships were just the latest problem in a long list of issues. The Korthek Empire had been slowly tightening their control over human space for decades. They never attacked directly, but they made life difficult in 100 small ways. Ships disappeared. Trade routes were blocked. Supplies became harder to get. Commander Jake Sullivan walked into the room, his uniform still dirty from inspecting the outer sensor arrays. Jake ran the station's reconnaissance division, which meant he spent most of his time trying to figure out what the Korthek were planning with their very limited resources. The good news is that our long-range sensors are working better than ever, Jake said with a tired smile. The bad news is that there's not much good to report. The Empire has been building up forces in the Rigel sector. Looks like they're planning something big. Kyle sat down heavily in his command chair. At 52 years old, he felt every year of the stress that came with trying to protect humanity with ships that were barely better than the cargo vessels they were supposed to guard. The human fleet consisted of 43 ships, most of them converted civilian vessels with basic weapons and shields. Against the Empire's massive dreadnoughts, they would last about 5 minutes in a real fight. How many ships are we talking about in Rigel? Lisa asked, already knowing the answer would be depressing. At least 200, Jake replied. Maybe more. Their ships are getting bigger too. The newest ones are twice the size of anything we've seen before. The 3 officers stood in silence for a moment, each thinking about what this meant. The Korthek Empire had thousands of warships. each one more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. Their smallest cruisers could destroy entire human colonies without breaking a sweat. Their largest dreadnoughts were mobile fortresses that could turn planets into glass. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Betty Clark from the communications station, "we're getting some strange readings from the long-range sensors. There's something big moving at the edge of our detection range." Kyle walked over to the sensor station, followed by Lisa and Jake. The main display showed a three-dimensional map of local space, with various colored dots representing known ships and stations. At the very edge of the display, a single red dot pulsed slowly. "What are we looking at?" Kyle asked. "Unknown contact, sir," Betty replied, her fingers dancing over the controls. "It's moving fast, but the signature is unlike anything in our database. The computer can't identify what type of ship it is." Jake leaned closer to the display, studying the readings. "How big?" "That's the strange part, sir. The energy signature suggests something massive, but the computer keeps giving me error messages when it tries to calculate the size." Lisa frowned. "Could it be a Korthic ship we haven't seen before?" "Maybe," Betty said, "but the energy patterns are completely different. Korthic ships use fusion reactors. This thing is putting out readings that don't match any known power source." Kyle felt a chill run down his spine. In his experience, unknown contacts in space were usually bad news. "Where is it headed?" "That's the really strange part, sir. It's not coming toward human space. It's heading directly for the heart of Korthic territory." The command center fell silent. For over 200 years, nothing had dared to challenge the Korthic Empire directly. Their military was too strong, their ships too advanced, their warriors too skilled. The idea that some unknown force was heading straight for their core worlds was almost impossible to believe. Could it be another alien race? Lisa asked quietly. "There are no other major powers in this region," Jake replied. "The Korthic made sure of that centuries ago. They wiped out or enslaved every species that could pose a threat." Kyle studied the display, watching the red dot move steadily toward Korthic space. Something about this felt different. In all his years of military service, he had learned to trust his instincts, and right now those instincts were telling him that everything was about to change. "How long until it reaches the Empire's border?" he asked. Betty checked her calculations. "At current speed, about 6 hours, sir." "Keep monitoring it," Kyle ordered. "I want to know the moment anything changes. And get me a direct line to Earth. Command, they need to know about this." As the others returned to their duties, Kyle remained at the sensor station, staring at the mysterious contact. The ship, whatever it was, continued its steady course toward the most dangerous region of space. Either its crew was incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Kyle hoped it was the former, because humanity needed all the brave allies it could get. Hours passed with little change. The unknown ship maintained its course and speed, ignoring all attempts at communication. The Korthic Empire's border patrols had not yet detected it, but that would change soon. Kyle found himself wondering what would happen when they did. The Korthic response to unknown ships was always the same. They would send a patrol to investigate, demand identification and submission, and then either escort the ship away or destroy it if it refused to comply. Kyle had seen this pattern dozens of times over the years. The Empire did not tolerate mysteries in their space. "Sir," Betty called out suddenly. "The contact just changed course. It's slowing down and adjusting its trajectory." Kyle hurried back to the sensor station. The red dot had indeed changed direction, but not in the way he expected. Instead of turning away from Korthic space, it was heading for one of their major military installations. "Is it avoiding their patrols?" Lisa asked. "No, ma'am. If anything, It seems to be heading directly for the largest concentration of Korthik ships in the sector. Kyle felt his heart begin to race. Whatever was piloting that ship was either completely insane or had a plan that none of them could understand. Either way, the next few hours were going to be very interesting. The mystery ship continued its journey toward the heart of the Korthik Empire, carrying with it the possibility of change that Kyle had never dared to hope for. For the first time in decades, something was challenging the Empire's absolute control over the galaxy. Kyle just hoped that whatever it was, it knew what it was doing. Admiral Vexthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, studying reports from across the Empire. At 7 feet tall, with dark gray skin and glowing red eyes, he was an impressive figure even among the Korthik. He had spent 300 years conquering worlds for the Empire, and had never met a species that could truly challenge Korthik's superiority. The current reports were routine. Another human cargo ship had been captured trying to smuggle supplies to a rebel colony. A mining operation on Kepler-7 had exceeded production quotas. 3 minor species had submitted formal requests to join the Empire, hoping to avoid the fate of those who resisted. Everything was as it should be in the Empire's controlled space. The Korthik maintained order through strength, and strength through superior technology and military might. Their ships were the largest and most powerful in the galaxy. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields could stop any known attack. For 3,000 years, this formula had never failed. Captain Ziegmer of the patrol cruiser Decimator interrupted Vexthu's thoughts with an urgent communication. The Decimator was one of the Empire's fastest ships, designed to investigate unusual situations and deal with minor threats quickly. Admiral, Ziegmer's voice came through the communication system. We have detected an unknown vessel approaching Sector 7. It does not match any ship design in our database. Vexthal frowned. Unknown ships were rare in Korthik space. Most species had been catalogued and either conquered or destroyed centuries ago. What is its origin? Unknown, sir. The ship appeared at the edge of our sensor range and is proceeding directly toward our core installations. It has not responded to identification requests. Size and armament? There was a pause before Ziegmer replied. Sir, our sensors are having difficulty getting accurate readings. The ship appears to be large, but its energy signature is unlike anything we have encountered. Vexthal's interest was now fully focused on this conversation. In 3 centuries of military service, he had learned that unusual sensor readings usually meant trouble. Proceed to intercept. Follow standard protocol. If the ship does not comply with Imperial authority, you are authorized to use force. Understood, Admiral. Decimator out. Vexthal turned to his tactical officer, a younger Korthik warrior named Kredvin. Alert the sector command. I want to know everything about this unknown ship the moment Captain Ziegmer makes contact. The Decimator was already moving to intercept when the first real surprise occurred. The unknown ship had suddenly accelerated, demonstrating speed that should have been impossible for something of its apparent size. Captain Ziegmer found himself having to push his engines to maximum power just to maintain pursuit. Unknown vessel. Ziegmer broadcast on all standard frequencies. You are entering restricted Imperial space. Identify yourself immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection. The response came back in perfect Korthik, spoken with an accent that Ziegmer could not identify. This is Captain Ryan Collins of the Earth Defense Corps' vessel Intrepid. We are here to discuss terms for your immediate withdrawal from human territory. The bridge of the Decimator fell silent. Then, slowly, laughter began to spread among the crew. A human warship? The idea was so ridiculous that several officers openly laughed at the communication. Captain Ziegmer composed himself and responded. Human vessel, you will power down your weapons and engines immediately. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your destruction. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Captain, came the calm reply. However, we would be happy to demonstrate why you should reconsider your position. Ziegmer's amusement turned to anger. No species spoke to the Korthic Empire with such disrespect and survived. All weapons, target the human ship. Prepare to fire on my command. The Decimator's powerful weapons locked onto the unknown vessel, which had now dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and was clearly visible on their screens. What they saw defied their expectations. The ship was indeed large, nearly the size of a Korthic heavy cruiser, but its design was completely alien. Its hull seemed to shimmer with an energy field they had never seen before. Fire, Ziegmer commanded. The Decimator's main weapons unleashed their full power at the human ship. Energy beams that could crack a moon's surface struck the target directly. But instead of the expected explosion, something impossible happened. The beams simply passed through the ship's shields, as if they were not there, yet caused no damage to the hull. Before Captain Ziegmer could process what he had just witnessed, the human ship responded. A beam of coherent energy, unlike anything in Korthic technology, struck the Decimator with surgical precision. In seconds, every weapon system on the Imperial ship went dead. The engines failed. Life support flickered and went to emergency power. The Decimator, one of the Empire's most advanced patrol ships, was now helpless in space. Captain, the human voice came through their communications again. As you can see, your weapons are ineffective against our defenses. We have disabled your ship's combat systems, but left your life support intact. Consider this a demonstration of our peaceful intentions and our capability. Captain Ziegmer stared at his dead control panels in shock. In over a century of military service, he had never seen technology that could simply pass through Korthic shields and selectively disable ship systems. It should have been impossible. What do you want? He finally managed to ask. As I mentioned, Captain, we are here to discuss the Empire's withdrawal from human space. We understand that this may come as a surprise, given your previous assumptions about human capabilities. The human ship began moving again, leaving the disabled Decimator behind as it continued toward the heart of Korthic space. Captain Ziegmer immediately sent an emergency signal to Admiral Vexthal, though he struggled to find words to describe what had just happened. When Vexthal received the report, his first instinct was to assume that Captain Ziegmer had made some sort of terrible mistake. Humans were barely capable of interstellar travel, much less building warships that could defeat Imperial technology. But the sensor logs were clear, and Ziegmer was one of his most reliable officers. Get me High Admiral Corex immediately, Vexthal ordered his communications officer. This situation was beyond his authority to handle alone. High Admiral Corex commanded the entire Imperial fleet from his massive flagship, the Universe's Judgment. When he received Vexthal's report, his reaction was similar disbelief, followed by cold anger. The idea that any species, especially the pathetic humans, could humiliate an Imperial ship was unacceptable. How many human ships are we dealing with? Corex asked during their emergency conference. Unknown, sir. We have confirmed contact with only one vessel, but there may be others, Vexthal replied. Impossible. Our intelligence reports indicate that humans possess no military vessels capable of threatening Imperial ships. Their entire fleet consists of converted cargo vessels and obsolete patrol boats. With respect, sir, our intelligence may be incomplete. The ship that disabled the Decimator demonstrated technology we have never encountered before. Corex was silent for a long moment, considering the implications. If humans had somehow developed advanced military technology in secret, it would represent the first real threat to Imperial supremacy in over 1,000 years. Admiral Vexthal, You will mobilize the Third Battle Fleet immediately. If the humans want to demonstrate their capabilities, we will show them the full power of the Korthik Empire. No species challenges our authority and survives. As orders went out across the Empire, mobilizing 50 of their most powerful dreadnoughts, human ship continued its journey toward the Imperial core worlds. Captain Ryan Collins sat in his command chair, monitoring the frantic communications traffic as the Korthak military machine began to respond to this unprecedented challenge. "Sir," his tactical officer Commander Sarah Brooks reported, "We're detecting massive fleet movements throughout Korthik space. They're mobilizing everything in the sector." Collins nodded calmly. "Good. It's time they understood that the balance of power in this galaxy has changed." High Admiral Corex paced the command deck of his flagship, trying to make sense of reports that seemed impossible. A single human ship had disabled one of his best patrol cruisers and was now heading directly for the Empire's most heavily defended systems. Every tactical analysis suggested this was some kind of elaborate suicide mission. Yet something about the situation felt different. In his 200 years of military command, Corex had destroyed hundreds of enemy fleets. He had seen desperate last stands, clever ambushes, and advanced alien technology. But he had never encountered an enemy that seemed so confident when facing such overwhelming odds. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, Commander Grixtel, "we have completed our analysis of the encounter between the Decimator and the human vessel. The technology demonstrated by the humans is completely unknown to us." Corex stopped pacing and fixed his glowing red eyes on the younger officer. "Explain." The human ship's weapons appeared to bypass our shields entirely, as if they were not there. Yet the energy signature does not match any known weapon type. Our scientists believe they may be using some form of quantum field manipulation, but the theory is beyond our current understanding. And their defensive systems? Even more puzzling, sir. The Decimator's weapons struck the human ship directly, but caused no damage. Analysis suggests the ship may be protected by some form of adaptive shielding that adjusts to incoming attacks in real time. Corex felt a chill that he had not experienced since his early days as a young warrior. The Korthik Empire's dominance was built on technological superiority. Their ships, weapons, and defenses were the most advanced in the galaxy. If humans had somehow developed technology that surpassed Imperial capabilities, the implications were staggering. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Amanda White stood in the underground facility known as Aurora Base, watching displays that showed the current status of humanity's most classified project. For 30 years, she had led a team of scientists in reverse engineering alien technology recovered from dead worlds across the galaxy. The Korthik Empire believed they had wiped out all potential threats, but they had been careless. When they destroyed civilizations, they often left behind ruins and wreckage. Human exploration teams, working in secret and using advanced stealth technology, had been collecting these remnants for decades. Dr. White called her assistant, Dr. Kevin Moore. "We're receiving confirmation that the Intrepid has made contact with Korthik forces. The demonstration was successful." Amanda nodded, though she felt no satisfaction in the moment. The technology they had developed was impressive, but it had come at a terrible cost. Every piece of alien equipment they had studied represented an entire civilization that had been destroyed by the Empire. "What's the status of the other ships in the Silent Fleet?" she asked. "All 11 vessels are ready and standing by in the designated coordinates. Captain Collins has operational command of the entire fleet." The Silent Fleet represented humanity's greatest achievement and its most dangerous gamble. Each ship incorporated technology from multiple extinct civilizations, carefully integrated with human engineering and innovation. The result was a small fleet of vessels that could match or exceed Imperial capabilities, Lieutenant Colonel Ben Carter entered the command center, carrying a tablet filled with intelligence reports. As commander of Earth's Phantom Division, he oversaw the network of stealth scouts that had been mapping Korthik space for years. The Empire is mobilizing their third battle fleet, he reported. 50 dreadnoughts under Admiral Krekstar. They're moving to intercept our ship. Only 50? Amanda asked with a slight smile. I was expecting them to send more. Ben looked at her with concern. Amanda, 50 Korthik dreadnoughts represent more firepower than has ever been assembled in one place. Each of those ships could destroy an entire human colony. That's exactly what they're counting on, Amanda replied. The Empire has always won through overwhelming force. They've never had to face an enemy that could match their technology. Back in space, Captain Ryan Collins studied tactical displays showing the approaching Korthik fleet. The Intrepid was his flagship, but it was far from alone. 11 other ships of the Silent Fleet were positioned throughout the system, invisible to Korthik sensors thanks to their advanced cloaking technology. Captain, reported his tactical officer Sarah Brooks, the Korthik fleet will reach weapons range in 6 hours. Admiral Krekstar is commanding personally. Collins had read the intelligence. Files on Krekstar. The Korthik admiral was known for his aggressive tactics and his hatred of species that dared to resist imperial authority. He had destroyed over 30 civilizations during his career and had never lost a major battle. Good, Collins said calmly. It's time the Empire learned what happens when they underestimate their opponents. Chief Engineer Pete Davis looked up from his console. All systems are operating at peak efficiency, Captain. The quantum resonance drive is stable, and our adaptive shielding is ready for combat. Collins nodded. Pete had been instrumental in making the hybrid technology actually work. Combining alien systems with human engineering had required innovations that pushed the boundaries of known science. The waiting period gave Collins time to reflect on how humanity had reached this point. For 2 centuries, humans had been confined to a small region of space, treated as a minor species unworthy of serious attention. The Korthik Empire had assumed that human technology would remain primitive indefinitely. They had been wrong. While the Empire focused on conquest and subjugation, humanity had chosen a different path. Instead of trying to match imperial numbers, they had focused on innovation and technological advancement. The ruins of dead civilizations had provided the foundation, but human creativity had made the breakthrough discoveries possible. Captain, Sarah reported, we're receiving a transmission from the Korthik fleet. Admiral Krekstar wants to speak with you directly. Put him through. The main display showed a tall, imposing Korthik in full military dress. Admiral Krekstar's scarred face and burning red eyes spoke of centuries of warfare. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. Human ship, I am Admiral Krekstar of the Imperial Third Battle Fleet. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. This is your only warning. Collins looked directly into the camera, his expression calm and confident. Admiral Krekstar, I am Captain Ryan Collins of the Earth Defense Corps. We have no intention of surrendering. However, we would like to offer you the same opportunity we gave Captain Ziegmer. Withdraw your fleet from this system, and no one needs to be hurt. Krekstar's laugh was like the sound of grinding metal. You face 50 of the Empire's most powerful warships with a single vessel. Your bravery is admirable, but your stupidity will be your death. Admiral, you're making the same mistake that the Empire has been making for centuries. You assume that numbers and size are the only things that matter in warfare. Today, you're going to learn otherwise. The transmission ended with Krekstar, face twisted in rage. Collins turned to his crew, all of whom had served with him through years of secret preparation for this moment. All ships, this is Collins. Execute Formation Delta. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity is no longer hiding in the shadows. Throughout the system, 11 cloaked ships began moving into position. The silent fleet was about to reveal itself, and the Korthek Empire was about to discover that their 3,000 years of dominance were coming to an end. The battle that would change the balance of power in the galaxy was about to begin. High Admiral Korix stood in the center of the Imperial War Room, staring at the tactical display that showed the complete destruction of his third battle fleet. The holographic representation of the battle played over and over, each repetition making the reality more impossible to accept. 50 dreadnoughts, the pride of the Imperial Navy, had been defeated by 12 human ships without inflicting a single casualty in return. Around the circular chamber, the Empire's highest military commanders sat in stunned silence. General Vorthak, Supreme Commander of Imperial Ground Forces, kept shaking his massive head in disbelief. Admiral Nexrine, who commanded the Second Fleet, stared at the display with the expression of someone watching their entire worldview collapse. "Play Admiral Krekstar's report again," Korix commanded, though he had already heard it 5 times. The recording began with Krekstar's scarred face filling the display. The proud admiral who had conquered 30 worlds now looked like a broken warrior. "High Admiral, the Third Battle Fleet engaged 12 human vessels in the Nexus system. The enemy demonstrated technological capabilities far beyond anything in our databases. Their weapons bypassed our shields completely. Their defensive systems adapted to our attacks in real time. Their ships could appear and disappear at will." Krekstar paused, his red eyes reflecting shame and confusion. "Sir, in 300 years of military service, I have never seen anything like this. The humans did not just defeat us. They made us look like children playing with toys." The recording ended, leaving the war room in heavy silence. Korix turned to his intelligence chief, Commander Yexdao, who had been frantically analyzing data from the battle. "What do we know about human military capabilities?" Korix asked. "Sir, all previous intelligence indicated that humanity possessed no advanced military technology. Their fleet consisted of converted cargo ships and obsolete patrol vessels. There was no indication that they had developed the capabilities we witnessed." "Then our intelligence was wrong," Korix stated flatly. "The question is, how wrong?" Admiral Vexthul, who had commanded the sector where the first human contact occurred, stepped forward. "Sir, I believe we have been systematically deceived. The humans have been hiding their true capabilities for decades, possibly centuries." "Explain," Korix demanded. "The ship that disabled the Decimator knew exactly how to neutralize our weapons and defenses. This suggests extensive knowledge of Imperial technology. They may have been studying us for years without our knowledge." Commander Yexdal consulted his datapad. Analysis of the battle recordings shows that human weapons and tactics were specifically designed to counter our standard procedures. This level of preparation suggests long-term planning and intelligence gathering. The implications were staggering. If humans had been secretly observing Imperial operations for decades, they would know the locations of major bases, fleet movements, and defensive capabilities. The Empire's entire strategic position might be compromised. On Earth, President Janet Walsh stood before the United Earth Assembly, preparing to address the civilian population for the first time about the existence of the Silent Fleet. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from every human world and colony, all waiting to hear about the most significant development in human history. "Citizens of Earth and the human colonies," she began, her voice carrying across the chamber into billions of people throughout human space. "Today I can reveal to you a project that has been in development for 30 years. The Aurora Project, led by Dr. Amanda White, has given humanity the tools to defend ourselves against the Korthik Empire." The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Most civilians had never heard of the Aurora project, though rumors of secret military development had circulated for years. 6 hours ago, a fleet of 12 human warships engaged 50 Korthic dreadnoughts in what they intended to be a demonstration of Imperial power. Instead, our ships disabled the entire enemy fleet without suffering a single casualty. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Some representatives cheered, others sat in shocked silence, and many began asking urgent questions about what this meant for humanity's future. Dr. Amanda White, watching from the Aurora Base Command Center, felt a mixture of pride and concern. The technology they had developed had performed beyond their best expectations, but she knew that revealing humanity's capabilities would bring new dangers. Dr. White, her assistant Kevin Moore, called out, "We're receiving reports of increased activity throughout Korthic space. It looks like they're mobilizing additional fleets." Amanda nodded grimly. "We knew this would happen. The Empire won't accept this defeat without trying to retaliate. How many ships are they moving?" "Intelligence reports suggest they're gathering forces from across their territory. Conservative estimates put it at over 500 warships." Meanwhile, Fleet Admiral Kyle Harrison, newly promoted to command all human military forces, was coordinating with Captain Collins to establish new defensive positions. The revelation of the Silent Fleet had changed everything, but it had also made humanity a target for every hostile force in the galaxy. "Captain Collins," Harrison said during their secure communication, "what's the status of our other assets?" "All 12 ships of the Silent Fleet are operational and ready for deployment. However, we need to consider that the Empire now knows about our cloaking technology. They'll be working on countermeasures. How long do you think we have before they adapt?" Collins considered the question carefully. "The Korthic are not stupid, Admiral. They've dominated the galaxy for 3,000 years by learning from their mistakes. I'd estimate we have maybe 6 months before they develop effective countermeasures to our current technology. Then we need to make those 6 months count. Dr. White's team is already working on next-generation systems, but we need time to implement them." Back in the Imperial War Room, High Admiral Corax was making decisions that would determine the future of the galaxy. The Empire had never faced a technological challenge of this magnitude, and their response would either restore their dominance or lead to their downfall. "Admiral Nexrin," Corax commanded, "you will mobilize the First and Second Fleets. I want every available ship moved to staging areas near human space. Sir, that will leave our other territories vulnerable to rebellion. The subjugated species lack the capability to threaten us. The humans, apparently, do not. They are now our primary concern." General Vorthak leaned forward. "High Admiral, what if this is not just about the humans? What if other species have been secretly developing advanced technology?" The question sent a chill through the room. The Empire's control was based on the assumption that no other species could match Korthic military capabilities. If that assumption was wrong, the implications were terrifying. "We will deal with that possibility when we encounter it," Corax replied. "For now, our focus must be on the human threat." As orders went out across the Empire, mobilizing the largest military force in galactic history, Captain Collins received new intelligence reports aboard the Intrepid. The Silent Fleet had moved to a hidden base in the void between stars, a facility that had been constructed in secret over the past decade. "Captain," Commander Sarah Brooks reported, "long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements throughout Korthic space. They're gathering everything they have." "How many ships?" "Conservative estimates suggest over 800 warships will be deployed against human space within the next month." Collins felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The Silent Fleet had won the first engagement, but they were still vastly outnumbered. The coming battle would determine whether humanity's gamble would pay off or lead to their destruction. "Sarah, Send a message to all Silent Fleet commanders. We're going to need every advantage we can get for what's coming. The message went out to the other ships of the fleet, each commanded by officers who had spent years preparing for this moment. Captain Nicole Turner aboard the Defiance, Captain Steve Martinez commanding the Retribution, Captain Helen Rodriguez of the Vengeance, and 8 other commanders who represented humanity's best hope for survival. As both sides prepared for the largest space battle in galactic history. The balance of power that had existed for 3,000 years hung in the balance. The Corphic Empire, faced with the first real challenge to their dominance, was mobilizing everything they had to crush the human threat. But humanity was no longer the weak species that had been confined to a corner of the galaxy. The Silent Fleet represented not just advanced technology, but the determination of a species that refused to accept subjugation. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the future of every civilization in the galaxy. The age of unquestioned imperial dominance was ending, and what would replace it remained to be seen. In the depths of space, human and Corphic forces prepared for a battle that would echo through history. The outcome would determine whether the galaxy would continue under the iron rule of the Empire, or whether a new age of freedom and equality would begin. The final test of humanity's strength was about to begin.